Welcome along to Betting Weekly Extra Time European Edition. You're with Dan Roebuck alongside me, Steve Wyss and James Eastham. Gentlemen, there is a disturbance in the force. The Euro show, for the first time ever, in its current guise at least, is not in profit. Although, Steve, you are. Steve, how are you after the international break?
Oh, good day to you both. I think the international break came at a good time, to be honest. And a lot has happened in the last 2 weeks. This is interesting because this round of fixtures here, I've heard a lot of people say this is one of the most difficult of the entire season. And I kind of agree to an extent because we are, internationals early in the season on the back of a transfer window as well. So, and a lot of the leagues are only got 2 or 3 games in. So it can be difficult. I think what we've got to do here this weekend, I am expecting random results. So I'm ready for it. You've got to be ahead of the trend and sort of there'll be results this weekend where people are like, how could you have seen that coming? How is that possible? Well, I think it's quite normal on a weekend like this after international break. So we've got to try and embrace it and try and find the angles in. I've got a lot of I'm using the international break for a lot of reasons for my picks this weekend.
Embrace the chaos, James. That's the word.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with Steve there. I think it is a tricky weekend because you don't have a great deal of league form anyway. We're only 2 or 3 weeks into the season and then you have a break. So it is hard. I'd be fascinated to hear what viewers and listeners think about this weekend, whether they like to get involved in it, whether they think maybe there's opportunities or whether they like to leave it alone. But we've got our usual picks and plays. And there are certain ways you can look at the international break and think, there's maybe an angle here which is thrown up by it. But generally speaking, it can be quite tricky looking across the different leagues this particular weekend.
As I mentioned, we're just sliding into a loss, unfortunately, after 2 match weeks. P&L on screen of the boys. Plenty to discuss. Some smart, chaotic plays coming your way, maybe. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the newsletter, bettingweeklystudios.com. And as James was pointing out, get your comments in. Always great to know what you're betting this weekend. Maybe you are taking a stand back from match week 4 as it is for a couple of the leagues across the continent. Make sure you subscribe and like. Let's get some 2U plays off the bat. As per usual, we go to Spain first of all. And James's 2-unit pick, it's Real Sociedad against Real Madrid. This is Saturday, 10:15 in the morning, Eastern. Real Madrid are short price favourites. Surprised me a little bit, James, that Real Madrid only had 13 players away on international duty, and only a couple in South America, and one of those not a regular starter. Xabi Alonso was the manager of the month in La Liga. La Real, meanwhile, are struggling a little bit. What's the 2U play?
The 2-unit play is on Real Madrid, Dan, to win this weekend. They're very short to do so, as you said. Well, I say very short. They're short, but I actually thought they'd be shorter. They're minus 177 to win the game. So I'm backing them on the Asian handicap with a minus 0.75 goal start, which is available at minus 137. So with this 2-unit play, you'll make a profit if Real Madrid win the game. And I think it's a great opportunity to back them because you've mentioned there the international break. We normally think of it affecting teams like Real Madrid quite heavily with them having lots of players on international duty. Like you say, I'm not too sure that it's that bad this time. Only a couple of players going to South America. Most of the players involved in internationals in Europe won't have taken too much out of them. And so I think they can go into this game with a fairly regular type team. They've obviously had less training together, but I don't think that really matters because they've made such a strong start to the season. We've both talked about Real Madrid so far this season, Steve and I've been really impressed by them. I think they've started the season in particularly good form. They have looked the strongest side in La Liga so far. They've won 3 out of 3. And I think Xabi Alonso, winning manager of the month, as you say, Dan, as a new manager, I think he'll be at them to keep up these standards for as long as they possibly can. I don't see any way they'll be given any right to ease off here because of the international break or because the Champions League group stage is starting next month. So I'm expecting the same sort of Real Madrid performance here as we've seen in the first 3 match days. I think they should get the match won. And as you say, Real Sociedad haven't made a particularly good start. They're without a win in their opening 3 games. So everywhere I look at this, I think Real Madrid should dominate the game the way they've dominated their matches so far, and they should get the win. So it's my 2-unit play. It's on Real Madrid on the Asian handicap, minus 0.75 goal start, and it's available at minus 137.
Steve, just a brief word from you on Real Madrid. I mean, I guess it helps. Vinny Jr. wasn't picked for Brazil, rested, and obviously Carlo Ancelotti is the Brazil coach, so he's got a little bit of an affinity with Real Madrid. That helps a little bit. It did surprise me how many players, or how few players, were away on international duty with Real Madrid. They've got a good chance to make it 4 wins out of 4 here, haven't they?
Yeah, initially I was wanting to oppose Real Madrid. I love to oppose the big favourites in this round because normally these teams are affected badly by internationals. But actually, Real Sociedad, you could argue, are in a worse place of it because half of their starters have been around the globe. I mean, we've got guys like Kubo. Japan have been everywhere, haven't they? Aramburu from Venezuela, Oriathbal, who has been in pretty good form actually for Spain. So I think it balances itself out, in fact, to such a level that Real Madrid are actually a bet, probably. As well, they are a bet on James's radar here, 2 units, so I can't really disagree with it. Really liked what I saw from them before the international break. They probably could have done without it because Xabi Alonso was just starting to get them ticking, but I think they'll come back strong, and Real Sociedad have struggled. So, and the good record here, Real Madrid as well. I think they won the last 3 visits to 0. So, yeah, it's looking like an away win.
You mentioned you like to oppose teams that have sent players far and wide. Does that mean that Paris Saint-Germain are gettable? Let's get to Steve's 2-unit play here. This is Sunday 11:15. French champions, European champions, of course, take on Lens at home. They are very short price favourites here. But Lens have been all right so far, Steve. What's the play?
Well, do you know, I've got a new strategy with my 2-unit play. I mentioned on the first show this year how it let me down last year. So I am now going with my strongest bet of the week, but I'm taking sort of the lowest feasible Asian line or goal line, even if the odds are not as big as normal. It's just a strategy I've got. So I'm going with Lens here on a +2 Asian handicap. It's at minus 155, but this is my 2-unit play. So, you know, if we cash, I'm still getting a decent profit. And the only way this bet will lose is if Lens lose by 3 goals or more, which I don't see happening right now because there's a lot of reasons to oppose PSG. International break's one of them. I mean, they're by far the most affected team in Liga for international. 16 players in total have been globe-trotting. And the bad news is that there's been some injuries from it. Dembele is ruled out for 6 weeks. He's going to be the next Ballon d'Or winner. Doué is ruled out probably for a month. So, you know, and apart from the performance against Toulouse, when that was the first real time they got ticking this season, 6-3 win, it should have been by more, then they haven't been that impressive. The international break didn't come at a good time for them for various reasons. And they face a Lens side now. Lens have the joint fewest internationals on in action over the international break, which surprised me. You know, this was never the case historically with them, but that's going to be a great 2 weeks for Pierre Sarge, who's been able to basically train with the whole team for just 2 starters affected, and one of those was the French under-21 keeper. So I think Lens, I mean, they've looked really good, 2 wins out of 3. The metrics are pretty good. We know they've become a selling team now, Lens, and the expectations are maybe not as high. But Pierre Sarge seems to be the best fit here at the club right now. As an actual team, they've got a history of pushing PSG close, nearly knocked them out of the French Cup last season. And I know this is now a new manager, but I think that the squad can take belief from that. Oh, also, by the way, Champions League starting. PSG defending their crown. They've got a really tough set of fixtures in Champions League, the hardest officially by ranking. So they'll want to get a good start against Atalanta at home. This is a sandwich game, basically. International break in between the Champions League. So PSG may well up winning the game by 1 goal or something, but I think Lens +2 Asian handicap here at minus 155 looks a really safe play. It's got to be my 2-unit pick. It's also my insider pick. So apologies for the same bet, but what can you do if I'm that confident about something? I had to give it up.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. And those missing players that you referenced there, just leaning to a lean from James, don't they? Because you've got a shot on target play here that sort of is just a little bit based on the fact that PSG are going to be missing some of their heavyweight players, their heavyweight strikers.
Yeah, I think the player props on PSG are really interesting on this game because of those injuries that Steve's mentioned. Ousmane Dembele is out and Desiree Doué is out. And what that means is that Luis Enrique's got far fewer players to pick from in attack. So to me, it looks likely that players who are fit in attack will have to start here because nobody else will be available. So it means we're likely to see Bradley Barcola start the game, and we're likely to see Kvaratskhelia start the game. It's not guaranteed, but you'd expect them to start because they're down on numbers in attack. If you're looking at the shot on target market, what's clear is that Bradley Barcola is a much bigger price than Kvaratskhelia in the over 1.5 shot on target market. Bradley Barcola is plus 210 to have over 1.5 shots on target. Kvaratskhelia is plus 115. I don't see why there's a discrepancy there. I would say that they're pretty much the same standard when it comes to having shots on goal. So just a player prop lean here. If you are looking to get involved in the PSG player props, have a look at Bradley Barcola over 1.5 shots on target plus 210. Much bigger price than Kvaratskhelia. And as I say, I think they're pretty much 50-50 in reality in these markets.
We're a little bit Liga heavy when it comes to picks on the show this week, but nothing wrong with that. These two, of course, know the league inside out. Let's get to Brest Paris here because we've got two units being pushed into the middle of the table. First of all, we'll get James's one unit play here. Brest are favourites to win this game, James, but both of these teams, A, need a win and B, have really struggled defensively.
Yeah, they have. It's Brest versus newly promoted Paris FC. And it's my one unit play. It's on over 2.5 goals, which is available at minus 122. It's a simple case, Dan, of this being a game between, in my opinion, two of the teams who have defended most poorly so far in League One this season. They've conceded 16 goals between them in 6 matches so far. Anybody that's watched them play will have seen stacks of mistakes defensively so far from Brest and Paris FC. Paris FC lost 5-2 at Marseille in a game where Marseille didn't even attack particularly well. Brest's centre-backs have been criticised by their own manager, and Brest's number one goalkeeper, Majecki, is suspended for this game as well. So there's lots of reasons to suspect we'll see poor defending, I think, in this game. And I also think the game situation lends itself to goals as well, because Brest have made a pretty poor start to the season in terms of points. I think they've been a little bit unlucky. But it's a home game for them against a promoted side. It's one that they will look at as extremely winnable. And they'll feel, I think, a little bit under pressure to get some points on the board here. So the way the game will go, I think, is for Brest to come out the traps really fast, see it as a winnable match, want to take control of it quite early on. I think it will be a pretty open game. In terms of the standard of play, not too sure about that, but I think the defending on both sides has been so ropey so far that I don't really think we can expect too much solidity really at either end of the pitch. So I think it'll be an open match. And as I say, if you look at how they've played so far and also the game state, then it's one where I do think we'll see goals. So it's my one unit play. It's the one pick for me in League One this weekend where I think we've got the best chance of goals. So the play is over 2.5 goals and it's available at minus 122.
Yeah, metrics, team news and league state all buy into that. And if there's goals, there's got to be goal scorers. Steve, we bring in your hot dog here. Who has caught your eye for your big play of the weekend?
Yeah, I actually thought that there was a good chance me and James might have the same hot dog here this week because Elan Cabal, Paris FC attacker, is far too overpriced to score any time. Plus 270. It's got to be my hot dog of the week. I nearly went over 3.5 goals actually here as my hot dog as well. Plus 215. And the other market you could look at for Cabal is over 1.5 shots on target, plus 230. But I've landed on him to score at any time, plus 270. He's been in great form. James flagged him up in the Marseille game, and he delivered there. and he delivered in the previous round as well. And this is a guy who's cutting inside from, well, mostly the right-hand position of the field, but he can pop up anywhere. He's on penalty duty. I think he's on some free kicks as well. So why is he the third biggest price in the Paris FC team to score? It doesn't make sense to me. So if there's going to be goals in the game, and there should be goals in the game, I think both teams will contribute. It makes sense for me to back a goal scorer here. And let's just get this guy I think he's still going under the radar a bit. Cabal, he's confident. He was on international duty with Algeria. He wasn't given a single minute. He was benched twice, and I think that'll annoy him. I think he'll want to prove a point, and it just kind of shows you that the Algeria team's actually quite decent. To actually get in that side in the attacking positions is difficult, but I'm surprised he wasn't given a minute, or at least a cameo off the bench against Botswana. So I think that will annoy him a bit. He'll want to prove a point. He's been travelling around but not been able to get on the field. So and that Brest defence is awful right now. There's nothing's changed in the transfer deadline day, stuff like that. It's going to be just as bad. The keeper, like James said, is there for the taking. A guy on penalty duty. My only concern, this is why I didn't go over 3.5 goals, is the forecast isn't very good weather. There's going to be a storm going in here on the west coast of Brittany. 45-mile-an-hour winds. I don't know if they've named the storm yet, Dan. So it's one of those that will probably just maybe go over the goal line, but not mega over. So that's why I went for the goal scorer instead of over 3.5. But I am expecting generally a goal feast.
Yeah, this is not Norway, Moldova, obviously. Let's just stick with the hot dogs. And James's pick here, Metz against Angers. Metz are the favourites here. And you've got an official hot dog and you've got a lean as well. And you come in at sort of similar angles, really, about players who are maybe getting forward a little bit more than they have in the past. Give us your hot dog in this one, James.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little bit unlucky at the moment, Dan, with my shot on target hot dogs. People who've been following them in the opening weeks of the season might have seen the leans have been landing, and the overshot on target hot dog picks haven't always been landing, unfortunately. So let's hope we can reverse that this weekend. So yeah, I've got a hot dog pick and also some leans coming up in the shot on target market as well. The hot dog play is on Boubacar Traoré of Metz. They're playing Angers this weekend in the over 0.5 shot on target market. Traoré is available at plus 265. I think that's a pretty good price based on what we've seen from Boubacar Traoré so far in midfield for Metz, and also what I'm expecting from this game. So he's managed a shot on target in 2 of his 3 games so far. One of them was a goal. And he's a player who I really like. Well, this type of player I really like backing in the over 0.5 shot on target market. Basically a midfielder who is getting forward and getting into the box a little bit more than I think the price takes account for. I think plus 265 is too big based on what we've seen from Traoré. He has been getting into the box a bit more than maybe the market expects. Metz, I think, will be looking for him to do that this weekend as well, because they haven't got any points on the board. They're at home this weekend to a very beatable Angers side. I think it's going to be an attacking home performance here from Metz, which is perfect, really, for midfielders to be getting forward. So got a long list of contenders for the hot dog position this weekend, but in the end I went for Traoré. I think that plus 265 on him, just to manage a shot on target, is too big. So he's my hot dog play at plus 265.
Yeah, James has been very unlucky with the lean. Well, I say unlucky with the leans, lucky with the leans, unlucky with the official plays. Jack writes the same on the Premier League show.
Yes.
He's in profit for the leans. He's having a disaster when it comes to his official plays. You've also got another thought on this game, James, just a lean, and this is an Angers player.
It's an Angers player, and it's fairly similar. It's a midfielder who's been getting forward maybe a bit more than the market thinks. The player being Louis Mouton, midfielder at Angers, who joined them from Saint-Etienne over the summer. Over 0.5 shots on target. It's almost the same price as Traoré. He's available, he's Mouton, at plus 260. It's just a lean, Dan, because he has played a little bit further forward than we thought so far. There's a chance that might change this weekend. They've got a more attacking midfielder called Abdelli, who's been out injured in the opening 3 match days. Abdelli might come back this weekend. Might be on the bench, so he might not start, but if he came back into the team, it might change the way Mouton plays a little bit. So I'm kind of moving away from Mouton slightly. It's just a lean for me, but he's worth a look because he's been very good going forward so far. He's available at plus 260.
Just want to wrap up Ligue 1 with a few more leans. We have got another official play to come. We like to get the picks out off the bat before we get into the majority of the leans. But just to round off Ligue 1, Steve, you've got a play or a lean in the Lille-Toulouse fixture, a team with a really good high XG in this one. What's your thoughts here? 9 a.m. Sunday.
Over 2.5 goals is the lean at minus 113. I think I got off that Lille train too early, didn't I, for over goals?
Mm-hmm.
After the 3-3 draw week one. Sadly, 1-0 against Monaco when I was on the hot dog over. And they bounced back with a 7-1 win at Lorient. They seem to have goals in them. We know they've got defensive issues. And Toulouse are one of them sides that are awkward, aren't they? But that 6-3 result against PSG shows they're capable of getting involved in a shootout. Toulouse are actually overachieving unexpected points this season so far. It's the first time I've known it in about 5 years. So maybe things are improving for them in that regard. It was actually a tough decision whether to go with both teams to score yes or over 2.5 goals. But I've gone with over 2.5 goals just in case someone wins 3-0.
That's Lille-Toulouse, 9 a.m. Sunday. 2:45 Sunday, Rennes against Lyon. You got a shot on target play or lean for us here, James?
Yeah, it's a player I feel like I'm mentioning almost every week at the moment. It's Tanner Tessman of Lyon, over 0.5 shots on target at plus 270. Tessman's price in this market is really holding up as a big price, even though he does appear to be encouraged by his managers to get forward and have shots on target. So he's worth a look. He's got a pretty good shot on him when he gets into position, so he tends to hit the target rather than shooting wide or over. And I think plus 270 is not a bad price. The reason it's a lean rather than an official play is that if you look at how Lyon's midfield is set up, he's not really the midfielder who's officially encouraged to get forward. That's more Corentin Tolisso, the former France international. So I'm expecting at some point Tessman to start sitting deep and having fewer shots, but he's looked pretty good going forward to me so far, so it's just a lean on Tessman, but worth a look. Over 0.5 shots on target at plus 270.
Yeah, I always try and stress, or I should try and stress, that a lot of these plays, you know, that they're based on stats and info and thoughts over a period of time. If they don't hit 1 week and you think they're going to play in the same position next week, then you just go again. You make a list and you just try and sort of, you know, ride out maybe 1 or 2 bad beats. Same with Steve's Lille play. And James, just a line on the Auxerre Monaco game, which is Saturday, and you've just spotted a little bit of a discrepancy between a couple of strikers that you want to highlight.
Yeah, I think so. If you look at Monaco early in the season, which is great for picking up information about what a manager thinks about his players, maybe on the strength of how they've done in pre-season or similar. I think the Monaco manager at the moment sees 2 of his strikers, Mika Biereth and Balogun, at exactly the same level in terms of importance in the side. There was a lot of focus on Biereth last season. He came in January and was fantastic in terms of scoring goals in the second half of 24-25. But Balogun's got fit and he started the season in pretty good form. You could argue that he's maybe looked a little bit sharper actually than Mika Biereth in the opening weeks of the season. And at the moment, Balogun is a much bigger price in the anytime goal scorer market. Going into this game at at Auxerre for Monaco this weekend, Balogun's currently plus 205 to score, and Mika Biereth is minus 108. So it's a massive discrepancy. And right now, I think probably the 2 of them are as likely as each other to find the net. So if you're looking for a goal scorer play in this particular match, or you can look at some of the other markets like shots on target because they all sort of relate to one another. I think Balogun at the moment is slightly underrated in terms of his importance for Monaco.
Scored, of course, in international break for the USA against Japan in that good win for Pochettino's side. Let's get to Germany, shall we? And Steve's got his 1U play here. This is Heidenheim against Dortmund, which is a 9:30 game Eastern on Saturday. You've had to go to this one, Steve, because there's no Ten Hag team to fade now. He's been sacked after just a couple of games. So you've gone elsewhere. Dortmund are the short price favourites, minus 190, but maybe vulnerable. What's the play? This is an interesting one. Bit counterintuitive, this one.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other sort of lessons that I learned from last season was the amount of good winners we had, or leans, between sort of plus 150 and plus 195. And we left them on the table. And I'm not going to leave this one on the table. The bet is Heidenheim team total over 1.5 goals at plus 195. Official 1-unit play for the show, because I think Dortmund are quite opposable this week, really. Again, this is international break related. Second most internationals for them, but more importantly, 8 of the starters in their last game were on international duty, and a ninth, Julian Brandt, is now injured. Bear in mind, Schlotterbeck is also still injured for them, their best defender for me. So I think we could see a bit of a disjointed Borussia Dortmund performance. Doesn't mean they're not going to win the game. They've got a lot of firepower, but I wouldn't be backing them at minus 182. I think it is. I think Heidenheim can give a good account of themselves. This is when they shine. Every single window, international break, they have the fewest number of internationals. This has always happened for the last 2 years. And I've gone back to their results, actually, immediately after an international break, or the Christmas break as well. And they're not bad. 2 seasons ago, they had 1 loss in 5. And then last season, these were their results after international breaks. 1-0 win against Wolfsburg, 2-0 against Union Berlin. They lost 5-2 against Leverkusen. They lost 4-2 against Dortmund and 3-2 against Gladbach. And the theme basically is if they play someone average or poor, they draw or beat them. When they play someone good, they lose but put up a good fight and score goals. And this is their MO. They've lost the first couple of games, and I think they'll come out swinging here. They've had the whole break to train together, really, by a couple of players. I think it's the Georgian midfielder, Zivicadze, and Kosovan midfielder, Lia Parakada. So, the crux of the squad's been together, and they like being plucky underdogs, don't they? That's one thing we learned from Heidenheim the last 2 years. They love it when they're on the back foot, and I think there could be quite a few goals in the game. Over 3.5 goals is plus 128, but I believe Heidenheim are going to contribute more than people expect here. They're minus 250 to score 1 goal or more, but plus 195 to score 2 or more. And that's within their arch here. Dortmund's first game of the season was a 3-3 draw against St. Pauli, who are not known for their goal scoring. So we know this Dortmund team are still vulnerable on a bad day, and this is going to be one of those days where I don't think they play that well, or disjointed, or just don't deliver. So very happy to back Heidenheim at a big price here on the team total for 1 unit. I mean, effectively, I'm nearly having 2 hot dogs on this show this week, aren't I, Dan? To a degree. That's
all right.
Yeah, so, just too big to ignore in a really favourable spot for Heidenheim. Team total over 1.5 goals at plus 195.
Good spot. Good selection like that one. A couple of leans from Steve on the Saturday Bundesliga slate as well. Wolfsburg against Köln. Köln. Started the season like it's 1977. I hope I've got that's the right season, or 77, 78, that they won the title. And you like them here, Steve? I mean, they have started the season really well.
I thought you were on about Star Wars or something when I saw 1977 there.
No, that was at the top of the show. That you both batted aside because you didn't want to talk about P&L. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, Köln. I mean, I flagged them up, didn't I, week 1, and they won at a big price. But these Billy Goats, and this is not Steve Wyss's betting zoo, but a plug for that show, which has come out with Jack Wright. But these Billy Goats have looked great, and I think Köln plus half a goal here against Wolfsburg at minus 115, basically not to lose the game, looks a big price. 2 reasons: they're in good form, but also, again, not affected by internationals. Just 2 starters: Isaac Johansson for Iceland and Kamiska for Poland. Wolfsburg, 9 internationals, full internationals, plus 5 in the under-21s. So they've been disrupted here. I like Wolfsburg. I've said before, I think they have a good season, but this is a good spot to oppose them. Köln are underrated at the moment. They're good away from home as well. I think they're set up to defend. This could be a draw, but if anyone's going to win it, I think it's Köln. So plus half a goal on the Asian handicap, minus 115, looks quite a really strong lean. This might have been the next cab off the rank for me in terms of picks this week.
I think we're up to Henna's the 9th. I'm just trying to work out the Roman numerals for the mascot of Köln. What's 1x? Is that 9?
9.
It's 9. Yeah, we're up to Henna's the 9. Yeah, they still parading in front of the game, I think. Ahead of the game. Anyway, sticking with Germany, some picks. This is Freiburg Stuttgart. Steve, I must admit, I think I disagree with you on this one. I quite like Stuttgart, but you don't.
I said at the top of the show there's going to be some random results this week. Look out for some teams that have started badly, right? And they're going to rock up with a win this weekend or a performance, and you're like, where did that come from? And I think Freiburg are a candidate for it. Again, international break came at a great time for them. Only 3 starters went on international duty, so they managed to get a friendly put in, I think, and they had a good win, but they'd have been able to get gelling there. Against a Stuttgart side, let's be honest here, that they just lost Walter Marder. That's a huge loss. You can't just replace him willy-nilly, can you? And I think the goals market's overestimating Stuttgart at the minute. They're not going to be quite as high scoring. International break, 6 starters were in action, 2 on the bench. El Canouse, they've got him in from Leicester, haven't they? And, he's yet to play for them. So I think it's a good time to get to oppose Stuttgart. So Freiburg draw no bet plus 110. They're better than the first 2 results suggested. They got well beaten by Cologne, but the first round, that defeat, they actually won every other metric. So I think we've got a team here that's probably better than what they've shown, and they can rebound randomly here. Well, not randomly, there's reasons for it, like I said. And we can get them here at plus 110 on the draw no bet, as, again, quite a strong lean, really.
That is Germany. Let's get to Italy now. We've got 5 leans for you here. Couple from Steve, 3 from James. We'll try and do these in time order. And we're going to talk about the Derby d'Italia first of all, James, which is Juve versus Inter, which is a brilliant game because Juve have been impressive so far. This is the subject of your newsletter pick. So a little bit like Steve, you're giving the game away a little bit, but hopefully by the time this show comes out, the newsletter will have dropped in people's inboxes anyway. What is your thoughts on this one? This is a lean only in the big game of the weekend in Serie A.
Yeah, the market is really struggling to separate these two in terms of the money line. Juventus are plus 170 to win it, and Inter are plus 175. Probably makes sense. I think they're going to be. I think Juventus are going to finish ahead of Inter this season, but I can see why it's so close. So my lean on the game is on the tie at plus 205. I really like backing the tie in certain matches where it does look likely to be a close game and where the tie is the outsider of 3, as it is here. I've said it before, we're often guilty of overlooking the tie, the draw in the money line market. And I think this is a game where I'm not saying they'll play for the draw, but coming very early on in the season, I think both teams will be probably happy just to avoid defeat here. So I think the tie at plus 205 is the value play on this massive game in Serie A. And it's a great chance, I think, for Juventus to test out their own title credentials against Inter this early on and see how they're doing. One thing to look out for on this game and then going forward with Juventus is just how much firepower they've now got in the final third. They signed Lois Openda on loan from RB Leipzig just before the window closed, which I was surprised about because they've got Jonathan David, who came in from Lille over the summer, who went on to be Serie A top goal scorer this season. And they've also kept Dusan Vlahovic on their books. There was talk of Vlahovic maybe leaving in the summer, but he's still at Juventus. So what this means now is they've got 3 top-class strikers in this squad, which obviously gives them the option of playing with 2 up front. But what I think it also means in terms of betting is I think Juventus are really well stocked now to win games off the bench, to win games late on where maybe they need a goal. And I think it definitely improves their own title chances. So that's something to look out for in terms of the player markets, not just this weekend, but also going forward. But I think on the game this weekend, I think the tie as the outsider of 3 in the moneyline market is worth a look at plus 205.
That's Juve against Inter, which is a midday kickoff Saturday Eastern. Very early Sunday is Roma Torino, 6:30 Eastern. James, again, you've got a lean on this one. Gasperini hasn't let us down so far, and we're all on Roma, I think, for top 4, and we go again with a capital club. Yes,
we do. Yeah, I was really tempted to make this one of my not my 2-unit play, but maybe my 1-unit play this weekend on Roma because they've been great so far. 2 wins out of 2. They're very short to win this weekend at home to Torino, as you'd expect. They're minus 210 to get the 3 points against the Torino side who haven't scored in their opening 2 games. They had a 0-0 draw and a 5-0 defeat. So with Roma being so short, the lean is on Roma -1 on the Asian handicap, which is available at -112. So with this play, you'll get your stakes back if Roma win it by a single goal, and you'll make a profit if Roma go on and win by 2 or more goals. Will they do that? I'm not so sure they've got a big win in them yet, because I think the area of the team which probably needs the most work is the attack, but they've been really good so far. They've made a good start to the season, so I'm expecting them to win. And if they win this weekend with our lean, Roma -1 on the Asian handicap, you'll at the very least get your stakes back.
2 9 a.m. Eastern games for Steve to tackle for us. First up, Steve, it had to come sooner or later. We've got a lean. Oh, you made the gag on match day 1. I'm just nicking it. We've got a lean on Pisa.
Yeah, this is international break related as well. I try to find some angles in Serie A, and sadly the matchups don't really work this weekend. We've got like Inter against Juventus, where the 2 most affected teams are playing each other, and sides that haven't had many players missing are playing against each other, like Cagliari, I think, is it Parma? Anyway, Pisa, just 2 players, 2 starters on international break duty. 3, actually. Michael Aberisha, Marius Marin, the other one was Mbala and Zola. But as James will know, he's no miss, really, is he? In fact, he wouldn't start anyway. I think he'd be a bench player for them. But anyway, I thought Pisa actually defended all right in the first 2 games and grafted harder. And this is the first really proper winnable home game. You can't... I'm not holding it against them to lose at home to Roma. This is the first real proper chance. And Udinese have just beaten Inter away, right? But sometimes you can have a come down after that sort of result, can't you? Your expectations are high, and it's not always a bit after the Lord Mayor's show. So I kind of quite like opposing teams who've just had that sort of result. And Udinese actually really quite affected by the international break. Again, 9 full seniors on duty, plus 5 under 21 internationals. So now not all of those are starters or anything, but again, just a little situational spot where I think Pisa draw no bet here, -107. They're the underdog. Not sure they should be. I think they should be the slight favourite here, Pisa. So, yeah, the first lean on them this season. I'm not sure there'll be too many, because we think they're going to be in the bottom 4 or 5, but this is one of those instances.
Let's hope not. The whole show might fall over. Anyway, Atalanta against Lecce. Terrible. Atalanta Lecce for you as well, Steve. I don't even know that Ivan Juric was at Atalanta. I don't think he's winning too many friends at the moment. Played 2, drawn 2. What's the pick here? What's the lead?
I've lost my notes on this game, but there's not really much to say. It's Lecce, so it's under, isn't it? Under 2.75 goals at -113. Lecce just don't offer anything.
Seems a high line, that, Steve, doesn't it?
Really? Yeah. I mean, Lecce, when are they going to score a goal? You wouldn't back them to score against the worst team in the league. So I don't see them scoring here. And Atalanta, I mean, Ivan Juric, you just mentioned it. Not making many friends. He didn't make too many friends over here when he was at Southampton. We know his style. It's more pragmatic. Look at his Torino sides down the years. They've drawn against Pisa and Parma to start off 1-1. That's not a good sign. And I think they're going to lack goals this year, even though they've got the quality. This is the wrong hire. They needed to have a more attack-minded manager as a hire. So, look, they probably win Atalanta 1-0 or something. But the goal line looks way too high. 2.75 on the under here at -130.
And finally, to wrap things up, for now in Italy, we have got some Monday games to talk about, but a final lean from James on the Sunday slate. Sassuolo against Lazio, which is midday Eastern on Sunday. Lazio, big winners on match day 2. Interesting to see how they get on against Sassuolo, who were promoted, of course, from Serie B last season, but they didn't have the best defence in the second tier. I think it was 3rd best in the end, if not worse. What's the play here? What's the lean, James?
Yeah, Lazio are plus money here to win away from home to a pretty average, let's say, Sassuolo side. I was surprised when I saw the price of +104 on Lazio. I think it's too big. They were pretty impressive last time out. They won 4-0 at home to Verona. That game was all over by half-time. And Sassuolo, newly promoted, as you say, Dan, they've played 2, lost 2, conceded 5 goals. So I think this is a good chance for Lazio to get an away win. The lean is on Lazio -0.25 on the Asian handicap at -129. rather than backing them straight on the money line. And the reason it's a lean and not one of my official plays is I've got the same issue with Lazio this season as I had last season. I'm never quite confident what we're going to get from them. They were pretty inconsistent at times last season. They threw in some weird performances that we weren't expecting. So let's wait and see how they do here. I think early in the season, I'd rather try and build up a bit more knowledge about Lazio before making them an official play. But I do think plus money on Lazio here to win away from home is too big. So it's just a lean, but Lazio minus 0.25 on the Asian handicap.
Let's get to Spain. We've got some thoughts from Steve on the La Liga card over the course of the weekend. First of all, we've got a money line lean on the Getafe against Real Oviedo again, which is Saturday early 8 a.m. Steve, what you got?
Well, the next two leans I've got are really strong and easily could have made the cut really on official picks. But Getafe, money line, minus 109 against Real Oviedo. I'm not getting why this is such a big price. Because if you're a minus 109 favourite at home, it inclines that the books rate you as the better team, but not by such a huge margin. It inclines that if this match was played on neutral territory, Getafe would be, about minus 130 on the draw no bet, maybe? Minus 140, which that's wrong for me. This is a Real Oviedo side who've newly promoted, and they're one of the worst teams in the league. Look at the metrics. They've had a couple of tough games, but the win they had against Real Sociedad was kind of a fluke, really. I think the one shot on target, it was their goal. The Real Sociedad battered them, really. And I think they're in for a tough time. New in La Liga. This is like an awakening call. Getafe, physical, aggressive. First home match. I think it's a big price. Minus 109 on Getafe. And by the way, international break. La Liga is not affected so much by international break, but Real Oviedo had the fifth most internationals out of any team, including a couple from around quite far reaches of the globe. So make of that what you will, but I think Getafe will be too strong here and get the job done.
Moving on to a game on Sunday, which is again 8 a.m. Celta Vigo Girona. I get the sense this is more of a fade, Steve, of Girona than a massive play on Celta Vigo. But again, you are going for the home team here.
I nearly whacked 2-unit play on this. Minus 155 money line on Celta Vigo because Girona have looked awful. But this is one of those where, listen, how bad are Girona? I mean, Rory Barlow said they could be in relegation trouble this season, which makes me think they are going to be pretty bad. But they've had a 2-week break here. I hope this is not one of those random results where a team from nowhere gets a win or a draw when no one expects it. But Celta Vigo, let's be honest, they're by far the better team, really. At home, drawn games early doors. But their fixture list has been far tougher than you might think. This is their easiest game so far. And if Girona play as they have been doing, Celta Vigo will win this fixture. Both teams have not been affected by the international break. In fact, Celta, one of 3 teams not to have a single senior international away with them. William Swedberg was on Sweden under 21 duty. But I just think you would case it. This minus 155 could look absolutely massive on the money line come the end of the game. It's just, I think the only thing that put me off making it an official play was Celta have not looked quite themselves this season so far. A little bit below par, but I'm expecting them to have too much for this poor Girona.
I'm sensing here, James, with Girona, the same thing that I'm sensing with Brest as well, because 2 teams who made the Champions League, overachieved a little bit, got a lot of press, a lot of sort of narrative behind them, but they are having shockers off the back of those. Is that fair with Brest, do you think, as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's difficult when you're a small team who have had a massive season like that to readjust, actually, sometimes. Certainly with Brest, that's been the problem. They've lost a couple of players who they would have loved to have kept, who think they've probably peaked at Brest now and wanted to see something new. So I think it is difficult because it's trying to find that motivation and readjust and work out kind of who you are as a club, really, on the back of those seasons. So my view from a betting point of view is when you do have a small team who've had a massive season like that and got into the Champions League, it's kind of best to avoid them or certainly not back them too much because, it can be difficult afterwards.
Yeah, well, between them, they've both had shocking starts to the season. One team that hasn't had a shocking start is Barcelona, but it's sort of been borderline, Steve, and myself and James were quite sweet on them too. I've backed them to win the La Liga title. I'm slightly concerned about it now. You've talked about them in the past of being a little bit sort of wild and chaotic themselves. Maybe not one to trust on the money line. They take on Valencia 3 p.m. on Sunday. You've got a little bit of an angle in on one of the prop markets that came good for you previously this season.
Barcelona are now ranked number 1 in our power rankings on the Insider, by the way.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Who does these power rankings? Don't let Nigel.
I actually had sort of semi-control of it this week because Nigel's away. So a couple of changes on there. Well, yeah, sort of for that at the top end. It's a tough one. Who is the best? It's a really tough one at the minute, actually. Who's the best team? But PSG had to come down after the big injuries from the international break. But anyway, Barcelona, Valencia. The match is going to be played at the Estadi Johan Cruyff, 6,000 capacity.
That's their training.
Yeah.
It's the sort of their training ground, isn't it? It's where the women play, where the kids play as well. Yeah.
Members only, I think, getting the tickets for this one. So unusual venue, which I think that helps Valencia. I did look at Valencia +2 on the Asian here. But Carlos Corberán got beat 7-1 and 5-0 by Barcelona last season, which is very un-Carlos Corberán-like, isn't it? Normally the sort of manager who sticks in games, even as a big underdog. I just wonder, I mean, look, I rate Corberán. I think he's a good coach. And if he's learnt his lessons from last season, surely he keeps this one close. But I'm going to play for a bit of a game state bet here. Corners over 10.5. On the proviso that Valencia keep it close, then Barcelona are going to be pushing for most of the game, which means they're going to be pushing for corners. And Valencia, the sort of side, when they're on the back foot, they will just happily concede them, knock the ball behind. If in doubt, knock it out, sort of thing. Head it behind, and I'm expecting them to stay in the game. I think they can really frustrate Barcelona here. Maybe not avoid defeat, but at least stay within 1 or 2 goals. The concern, as I say, was those 2 head-to-heads last year, but Corberán's good enough to learn from it. So I think the corners bet is probably the stronger angle, really. If I've read the game as it's going to be, if Barca go 2 or 3-0 up at half time, I'm in trouble. But I don't think they will. So over 10.5 corners for me at -120, I think is the odds with Bet Rivers.
And that is the Sunday game, 3 p.m. incidentally. Monday Night Soccer to finish with. If you've had a good weekend or not so good weekend, then hopefully we can point you in the right direction when it comes to the games on Monday in Italy. Just a couple of thoughts from James and Steve on this. First of all, James, Verona against Cremonese. Verona +130, Cremonese +225. This is the early game, Monday, 12:30. An interesting one because you say this was nearly a one-unit play. Obviously, there's a lot of focus on Cremonese with Jamie Vardy. Don't know if he's going to play at all. I can't believe he will start. But nonetheless, Cremonese have started brilliantly.
Yeah, they have. And I know we have a lot of viewers who follow the Serie A games really closely. So I'd be really interested in the comments to know what people think about Cremonese, because I looked at this price time and time again. I don't understand why Cremonese is so big to win this game at +225 and why Verona are such short price favourites at +130. Cremonese have been great so far. They've won 2 out of 2. They won 2-1 away at Milan, and then they've beaten Sassuolo 3-2. So maybe didn't play as well as getting 6 points on the board would suggest, but certainly great for their confidence. And they've looked really good to me. And Verona haven't. You know, they were beaten 4-0 by Lazio last time out. That game was all over by half-time. So I was surprised to see Verona so short to win. And it led me to have a lean on Cremonese on the Asian handicap at +0.25 at -121. So if you back them on the Asian handicap like that, then you're going to make a profit on Cremonese as long as they avoid defeat. And based on how it's gone for them so far this season, I think they probably can avoid defeat. There will be a lot of focus on it, Dan, like you say, because of the Jamie Vardy transfer. Do they need him, having made such a good start to the season? I think it's going to be a great signing for them personally. I think his fitness and motivation levels will be up. And they did also sign another striker in Faris Mumbanya from Marseille just before the window closed. So they've got plenty of firepower. We don't know if those new signings will be involved here, but I think at the moment, early days, things are looking pretty good for Cremonese. So it's just a lean from me, but it could have been my one unit pick because I'm pretty strong on them. Cremonese +0.25 on the Asian handicap.
And James, the later game is 2:45 Como Genoa. Get your lean on this one first. Como, our favourites, minus 155. What's your thoughts here?
Yeah, Como Genoa. I mean, again, this is a strong lean from me. Under 2.5 goals at minus 129. You know, Steve has been flagging up for months the way that Genoa often play under Patrick Vieira, especially away from home. They can be quite defensive. I think this is a game where they would take a draw. I think under 2.5 goals at minus 129 is a pretty good price. All 4 games involving these two sides so far this season have gone under 2.5 goals. I think 3 of the 4 have gone under 1.5 goals. So again, just a lean, but I think the Monday night leans in Serie A this week are pretty strong. I'm not expecting many goals in this game, so I think under 2.5 on the Como Genoa match is definitely worth a look.
Yeah, and I just get the sense, Steve, as well, that maybe teams that are offering Como a bit more respect these days. Obviously, they finished the season really well last campaign under Cesc Fabregas, and he's taking on his former teammate Patrick Vieira here. Did they play together at Arsenal? I should know. Maybe they just did for a season. Steve, brief thoughts on this one. Is this go-to unders for you as well?
Yeah, you can't ever bet overs on Genoa game, can you? I think Como are entering overrated territory. I like them, but minus 157 at home to Genoa. You're right, it's a different sort of test. You know, they've got to break them down. And, you know, wily old fox in Patrick Vieira, they might win it, but at minus 157, I think Como is just starting to get a bit overrated, sadly.
That is Monday Night Soccer for you. Hopefully, by that stage, you will have made it pay. Did Fabregas and Vieira play together? I'm just looking at my notes from a long, long time ago. They were certainly in the same squad, but Fabregas didn't play in the Premier League, 304, but did play in the League Cup that year. Anyway, we digress. Steve, James, thanks for your company. Good luck to one and all. We'll keep everyone updated via our X feeds. That's a wrap for Betting Weekly Extra Time European Show. Follow us at Because We Win. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be back next week. Lots of content on the show, on the channel. From all of us. For now, though, it is goodbye.